and welcome back to Unfuck Your Co-Parenting with me, Livy North. Have you ever noticed that with a high conflict ex, you can say something as simple as the sky is blue, and somehow you end up in a 47 email thread about atmospheric manipulation, your tone, and your moral character? Today, we are going to break down that fantastic phenomena. We're going to talk about why they do it, and how you accidentally get recruited into this fight. Because it isn't random, it's a system. And really, it's a fucking exhausting system. So let's get right into it. High conflict personalities don't experience neutral interactions. There is no neutral for them. There's only winning or losing. And that happens through threats and control. That's it. It's actually pretty simple when you think about it. So when you send that message saying, our daughter has a dentist appointment at 3 p.m., what they hear is you think you're superior to them. So while you are sharing logistics, they take it as bait to enter some psychological warfare. Why, you might ask? Because high conflict people regulate themselves internally through external conflict. Calm does not feel safe to them. Cooperation feels like they are losing leverage. And basically, anything like agreement kind of feels like personal treason. They think if I'm not fighting, how am I proving that I'm right? And if we're not escalating, how do I feel that I'm powerful? If we're not arguing, how do I know I still matter? So what do? Manufacture conflict. So much fun, right? Let's walk through the classics because high conflict exes are nothing if not consistent. They don't invent new material. They just kind of remix the same 5 psychological tactics like a DJ who only owns one effing album. And after a while, you realize, oh, it's not chaos. It's a pattern. And once you see the pattern, I feel like y'all know where this is going. So let's talk about the first one. First up, tone attack. When you send a neutral, logistical message, something like, please send the school forms by Friday. No adjectives, no explanation point, no emotional landmines. And yet, the response you get is, I don't appreciate the hostile tone. Okay. Because the only tone there was punctuation, so you end up just getting a little confused. But now, you're no longer discussing the form. You're discussing your character. And the topic has shifted from logistics to some alleged aggression. And this is efficient for your high conflict ex. Because if you debate tone, you never actually have to address the actual request. And now they have sucked you in to defending yourself, your personality, your tone, and you forgot about talking about getting the form. It's classic. Next up is clarification spirals. So this is something like when you ask, can you confirm pickup at 5? Which again, I would say simple, binary, confirm or don't. Great message. And they are going to say something like, what exactly do you mean by confirm? You're not really sure how you can clarify, but you try to clarify one more time. And then they ask for clarification on your clarification. And then you clarify the clarification of the clarification. And at some point, you're just explaining the concept of time itself. And somehow no one's actually confirmed pickup because you've forgotten about it. And it's not confusion. This is a delay dressed up as dialogue. Because if they stay in semantic analysis long enough, they never have to commit. Next is going to be the moral accusation pivot. You share something kind of innocuous. Our son has a fever. I'm keeping him home from school today. And all of a sudden, you're not discussing your sick child. You're discussing your integrity. And you'll get a message like, interesting how he only gets sick during your parenting time. So now your child's illness magically becomes a character flaw of yours. And you're not a parent managing symptoms anymore. You are some sort of unfit parent that purposefully orchestrated bronchitis. And this is not a super helpful dynamic to co-parenting. Because if your motives become suspect, your co-parent starts to spin any of your decisions as automatically invalid, and you feel the need to defend yourself. You're defending your ethics instead of monitoring a fever. And honestly, it's pretty efficient redirection when it works. Next up, we have the historical rewrite. And again, this one's probably going to be real familiar. Say you do something crazy like reference the parenting plan and send a simple, "This is what the parenting plan says." The message you receive back, "That's not how I remember it." And you start to spiral. The documentation exists. It has signatures. It maybe was even signed by a judge. How the hell does your co-parent have the cojones to question a legal document? Yeah, but his memory or her has entered the chat, and memory feels more emotionally convenient to them. So now you are stuck debating reality, not because reality is unclear, but because clarity removes their leverage. And leverage is really their goal. Leverage to keep you stuck in their warped alternate reality where they still get your attention. And then finally, the victim flip. If you're super steeped in high conflict lingo, you might know this classic as DARVO, which is defend, argue, and then reverse victim offender. Not going to go into that, but basically the playbook is the same. No matter what you do, no matter what you say, they are masters at magically becoming the victim. So let's say you set a boundary, right? I need to follow the agreement. And suddenly you're an aggressor. "I can't believe you're attacking me like this." You reference your document, and somehow they turn that around to say that you're being violent, not helping, you're whatever. Whatever they love to say about you, that's what they're going to say. Now, you are reassuring the person who just ignored the agreement. And the original issue, whatever it was that you were attempting to communicate, gone, obliterated, overtaken by their need for conflict and your need to justify, argue, defend, and explain yourself. Because if they can position themselves as the wounded, they never actually have to be, I don't know, accountable for their crap. Now, at this point, things should start clicking. This should sound familiar, not just from your co-parenting battles with this person, but from your marriage or whatever previous relationship you had with this person. Think. Were you accused of nagging when you pointed out that they didn't do the dishes they'd promised? Did a simple night out that your ex maybe wasn't super excited about turn into some weird, exhausting debate about wording and logistics, and then you just ended up giving up on actually going? How many times were you called controlling because you were asking for something that you now see is just really basic accountability? Did you find yourself in arguments where you heard, "That's not how I remember it," so many times that you started to question your own reality and then spent hours replaying the conversation in your head? What about when you brought up something that they did that hurt you and somehow you ended up comforting them? Yeah, these tactics aren't new for your high conflict co-parent. They're just trying them out in a brand new arena. So what's actually happening here? And this is the part you have to remember. High conflict people are not actually trying to solve problems. They don't cooperate, they don't co-parent. They're not even trying to win a specific issue most times. Compromise to them doesn't feel productive. It's dangerous. And if you're operating from a deep, unaddressed well of insecurity, compromise can feel like exposure. I am not excusing their actions. I am simply explaining where they might be coming from in order for us to better understand how to deal with them. So instead of resolution, what they're really trying to do is avoid that sharp internal hit of shame, that uncontrollable gnawing sense of maybe I am not enough. And that's not something they want to sit with. So they're going to fight. And they need to feel in control. They need to feel like they're correct. They need to feel superior and unquestionable. They are better than you, smarter than you, more rational than you, hotter than you, more of a victim than you. Whatever insecurity that you have triggered by being, I don't know, happy and emotionally stable, successful adult, that is what they're going to attack. The topic doesn't actually matter. The feeling does. And these arguments, they're emotional smokescreens that they use to avoid accountability and keep you stuck under their emotionally controlling thumb, hopefully forever. So the way that they see it is if they question your tone, they don't have to examine their own behavior. They question your motives, they don't have to face accountability for their own actions. And if they escalate an issue, it's important and they no longer feel small. And if they can keep you explaining, defending yourself, justifying yourself, you're hooked, you're engaged. And that engagement means they're not alone with their shame. They get to share their shit with you. And that is the entire mechanism. No problem solving, no co parenting, just shame avoidance through control and driving you absolutely batshit. Once you see that, you can stop trying to fix the argument. So, if this is so obvious, why are we still talking about it, right? Because you're a normal, rational, empathetic human who assumes everyone you interact with probably has the ability to empathize, cooperate, and comprehend simple co parenting dynamics just like you do. You think if I explain this just a little bit better, maybe I can get them to understand. No, they understood your first message. Understanding doesn't get them engagement. And if you think you're in a conversation about pickup times, they think they're in a contest for power. It's different games. You guys are not talking the same language. You're trying to clarify, they're trying to destabilize. You're trying to resolve while they're trying to provoke. And every time you write that 3-paragraph explanation, every time you defend your tone or gather screenshots and timestamps and emotional energy to finally clear this up, they've moved on to the next chaotic thing and you never even get to introduce half your evidence to the argument. And if you did, they wouldn't have cared anyway. So how do we stop all this? Because you aren't going to out-argue them. You aren't going to finally craft that perfect email. You're not going to try to deliver this mic-dropping explanation that finally makes them see the light. You're going to reduce the oxygen. You're only going to respond to logistics. You're going to ignore provocations. You're going to stop defending your character to someone who's already pre-decided that you are the villain in their personal documentary. You're going to stop becoming responsive. You're going to become boring. Your responses, short, neutral, and aggressively uninteresting. And when they try one of these 5 tactics, you're just gonna keep going. They say, I don't appreciate your tone. You ignore it. Pickups at 5. They accusingly write something about how your kids are sick all the time whenever they're with you. You take the high road. Just give them the facts. His fever's 102. I'll update you tomorrow. Completely ignore the BS. No emotions, no justification, no dissertation, just the facts. Because when you stop supplying that emotional charge, there's nothing for them to grab onto. And high conflict dynamics feed on reaction. Take away that reaction, and suddenly the fire has nothing to burn. One caveat to all this, and I want everybody to really listen to this part. When you stop reacting the way that they want, do you think they're going to throw one of their famous adult temper tantrums? Yeah, probably. Because extinction bursts are real. And when their strategy stops working, it's a normal thing. People tend to double down and try harder before trying something new. And here's the part that matters. You are not responsible for managing their shame. You're not responsible for soothing their ego or proving that you are reasonable. You are responsible for protecting your peace and your kids. That's it. If this video felt uncomfortably familiar to you, don't worry, you are not alone. We have all been trained to engage. And now you're learning how to disengage without disappearing, and that can be hard. High conflict people are going to turn everything into an argument because conflict is how they regulate. You do not have to regulate through chaos anymore. You can regulate through boundaries, structure, strategic non-participation. So the next time the sky is blue somehow becomes some sort of federal investigation on your tone, take a breath, respond to the logistics, and just step out of the cycle. because the only person who has to stop playing the game is you. So if this hits, subscribe, follow, do all the things. If you've lived it, I would love to hear it. Drop a comment below and let us know what the most ridiculous argument that your ex has ever started was. And if you're trying to unfuck your co-parenting dynamic without losing your sanity, join me next week as we just try to get through this shit together.